Awesome. Should be live on Facebook, in the group, on YouTube, on Twitch. Perfect. Adrian, thanks for waiting on us. Love that you're jumping in. We're ready to go now. So, again, anybody who's joining us would love to jump in the chat, say where you're watching from. Let us know what your experience is with real estate. If you've done any deals, all the way through to trying to do your first deal, or if you've done 100 deals, that's great. It'll help us kind of tailor what we talk about today and help tailor, really the specific knowledge that we'll be able to give you today in terms of complexity level and where you're at in your own personal real estate journey. So, feel free to jump in the chat, say hi, please like and comment on the video. Gets more people jumping in and building a bigger community here and asking great questions of Tyler here, which really, really excited to have you on, Tyler. Again, appreciate your time. And where did you say you're calling in from right now too?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Matt. I'm in Tucson, Arizona.
Nice. That's a competitive market, to say the least.
It's very competitive. Yeah. It's not as bad as Phoenix, but it's getting more and more competitive. But it's a super competitive market.
There you go. Oh, and there you go. Adrian's in Arizona as well too. Oh, gotten 3 deals from DealMachine. Awesome. If you haven't been, if you're anybody who's landed deals with DealMachine, please email me, matt@dealmachine.com. We're always loving to interview people on our channel like this, help spread your story and help give you a little bit of a platform and maybe ask you a little bit about DealMachine there too. And we've had maybe 120, 130 of those videos that Elise has done with DealMachine members talking about the deals that they've landed using DealMachine too. So we always enjoy that. Always love doing that. So Adrian, feel free to reach out and say, hey, again, I'll throw my email in the chat here. Just matt@dealmachine.com right there. But excited to have Tyler on today. Tyler, you've were somebody that Carrot had looped us in with, which we are huge fans of Carrot.com. Absolutely love what they do and often have them on our channel as well. And, we've had Trevor on, we've had a variety of people, that if you search Carrot on our DealMachine YouTube channel, make sure to subscribe first. But then if you search Carrot, you'll see multiple videos pop up and us talking about, how we team up with them. So always appreciate them looping us in with people that are fantastic at what they do. And you clearly are great within your market. I know you had mentioned I've seen your ebook, but you also have a book, book on Amazon outside of that. So you're practicing what you preach. You're putting out great knowledge for the people. So excited to have you talk about a variety of things. I know today, the real focus is how to buy 1 to 3 properties a month. So kind of getting those first couple deals, starting to build that machine. We're obviously here to be a resource for that, but I know Tyler, you've done that in exciting ways well yourself, and excited to have you on there. So maybe can you tell people a little bit more about your real estate investing journey, how you got into this, how you got to the point of writing that book? I think hearing a little bit more context there will help people ask great questions too.
Yeah, sure. So I've been actually a licensed agent for 32 years. I got my license while I was in college, graduated from college. I bought my first foreclosure, kind of got my feet wet, and then started in on my real estate investing career. So you name it, I've done it. Bandit signs, pay-per-click, chasing deals on the MLS, door knocking, skip tracing, all the things that, DealMachine does. And I'm losing track of time. So, and I did well over the years. And then I also got into the mortgage business, did well there, but had a lot of rentals. So I've done a lot of everything. But about 3 years ago, I was doing a rehab, and I'd never done this before. I was going to be out of town when the rehab was going to get done. And it was a contractor that I worked with for 10 years. And I'd never done this before, but I trusted him. I prepaid him, and I loaded up a Home Depot card so he could finish the project. Well, long and short of it, I came home, nothing was done, and he was nowhere to be found. And I ended up losing about 20 grand on that deal, and just kind of was soul searching at the time, and was contemplating kind of getting out of it, because my model at that point was fix and flips, and I was living at Home Depot. And that's when I stumbled upon Carrot, and I basically I totally changed my model. I was contemplating kind of just taking a break, and long and short of it, I drove up to Roseburg, Oregon, and was on Trevor's doorstep and just said, I need some help. And so I cut bait on everything, and I went all in on Carrot and just organic SEO. And so, I mean, now literally I generate enough organic leads from organic SEO to do 1 to 3 deals a month without spending a dime on bandit signs, pay-per-click, you name it. So, I mean, my cost per deal is, and people don't believe this when I say it, is anywhere from probably maybe $300 to $400 based on my fixed costs.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and Carrot's so powerful as well. I mean, what we bring them on our channels often to talk about is the power of offline marketing with online marketing, like putting those two things together, where for DealMachine, especially, like many times we're a tool that, can help you enable getting that first deal and help you take action immediately, where you go out and you start talking to motivated sellers by building that list, by driving for dollars, by using our list builder tool, one of those two, and then build that list and start reaching out to property owners through either mail or skip tracing. So something quick that gets a, initial feedback like that. But when you're doing that and you start to building those relationships, if you combine that with online marketing, if you combine that with Carrot and with a long-term strategy like SEO, that online marketing, the first thing that people are going to do when they get a call from you, when they get a text, when they get a mailer, especially like a piece of mail through DealMachine, they're going to go and they're going to search you online. Like they're going to go and look you up and see like, who is this guy? And if they have any interest at all, really put in a little bit of work of just, Googling you and trying to, especially if they're a motivated seller, like try to either find you or shop in their market for some option. Right. So having an online presence there, waiting to showcase your credibility, to build trust with them, to really have a good first impression with them that way, though that combination is extremely powerful. So
yeah, and I agree. And I used to be the guy that chased every single shiny object. I was doing anything and everything. And I think it's real important just to pick, a couple of the things that you really know and spend on those, whether it's money or time when it comes to SEO, and just be an expert, in those areas. But like you said, my number 2 visited page outside of my homepage is my about page. And so if you're using DealMachine, and, they're going to go see who you are, because the most important thing, they've got to like and trust you. And, if they go to your about page, if you're using other types of things to generate leads, it can help you get a deal. Absolutely.
Yeah. Love it. Well, as we're, I love hearing about your journey and you clearly, I want to ask a little bit more about your mindset there, because you went through quite a bit to get to where you are today. But as we're going through this, feel free to jump in the chat, say hello, say where you're from, say what level of experience of investor you are, if you are doing deals, if you are, haven't done any deal yet, if you're advanced, if you've done 100 deals, like would love to hear from you, so that way we can make sure that we tailor our advice according to where you're at in your real estate journey. But Tyler, as we're going through that too, I know you'd mentioned like, hey, you had considered, giving it up a few times. You literally took the initiative to go to Trevor and say like, help me out here. Like, can you tell me a little bit around your mentality through that journey and how you have been able to, have such a strong work ethic and push through like that?
Yeah, I'd been at it for a long time. I was kind of burned out. Rehabs, they just take a lot of effort, and there's a lot of management, and I just didn't have, I was constantly just managing the rehabs, and was at a point where I was getting a little burned out, and I was also spending a ton of money on direct marketing. And like you said, Tucson's a competitive market, and we've got people that are spending $30,000-$40,000 a month in marketing. And I just knew that I didn't want to compete with them in terms of dollars. And I listened, Trevor had somebody on one of his podcasts that just did organic SEO. And I just knew that I literally locked myself in my office for about 30 days and just created just tons and tons of content, knowing that it would work. But my whole mindset behind the organic SEO is I've got a formula called my 261 formula. And literally in terms of organic SEO, because people kept asking me like, what are you doing? And I couldn't articulate it. Like, I don't know, just do this. And so I started to really think deep about what it is that I had done. And I came up with what I call my 261 formula. And that's literally, in terms of the organic SEO component of investing, is I locked myself in my office for 2 months and just followed everything that Carrot told me to do. And the thing about SEO, a lot of people get really impatient because they put in this work and nothing happens. And
Mhm.
so the 6 months is, it takes about 6 months to marinate and resonate. And, SEO doesn't happen overnight. So it's 2 months of hard work, 6 months of kind of letting things to happen. And then the real magic really happens in about a year. And so organic SEO it's a long process that if you're willing to stay the course and not give up,
Mhm.
you really start to see the results after about a year. And it took me that long to really get going, but I didn't give up and I just kept on going.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like you said, it's a long-term strategy that as you continue to do it, you build momentum and it compounds on itself. It's something that's more and more powerful. And I mean, real estate, that's just, one application of it. Like I actually had a background within PR, content marketing, SEO, like that world as well as the agency world. And
Mhm.
it's true for every industry, but especially within real estate investing, if you're focused hyper locally on that local SEO and being able to put out a great online presence like that, over time, that's going to pay dividends more and more and more every month. But yeah, I see Adrian jumping in here talking about the journey there that they had done 12 deals since 2008, trying to jump in full time, spending an average 400 a month. So for people, anybody who's trying to get started with this, can you maybe talk a little bit more around why SEO matters, why it's so powerful, and then kind of transition into that playbook? I know you said the 261, but would love to hear, beyond the why, the tactical, playbook there that you really followed.
Well, the playbook for me is, I was spending lots of money on all the things that everybody's telling me to go do.
Mhm.
And I mean, you can do a direct market mailing piece and spend a lot of money on it and drop a lot of cards. And there's not always an ROI on what you do. And I kept chasing it and I kept spending more and more money. And I finally just said, I don't want to compete with other investors with money, and I'd rather compete with time. But it's organic. I mean, it's evergreen marketing that, Trevor talks about all the time. It's like a bandit sign that never goes away. And that's how I tell people, listen, if you could put a bandit sign up that would never disappear, would you go do it? And the answer is yes. So, I mean, organic SEO is spending a lot of time putting up bandit signs all over the internet, and it's evergreen
Mhm.
marketing that typically is not going to go away. But there's a lot of things, and SEO is always evolving and changing. So you've got to kind of keep up with SEO and stay on top of it.
Mhm.
But once you start to understand it, and you do a little bit on a daily basis, it adds up to be big over time. But the thing is, you've got to be patient, and it definitely takes time. But for the newest investor, to your question, a lot of new investors just don't have the money to compete with a lot of the big boys that have been at this for a long time. So, yeah, I
Mhm.
know they need a deal now, but if they're willing to put in the time and effort and work, I mean, they can compete with organic SEO and not have to spend a ton of money.
Yeah, what do you think are realistic expectations in terms of budget setting and then also timeline? Like, when do you know? How do you know it's working 3 months in? How do you know it's working 6 months in? Like, I love to hear both of your budget and
Well, and
timeline.
that's a great question. So it's setting realistic expectations up front. And if
Hmm.
you think you're going to get, a website and get up and running and start getting deals right out of the gate, I mean, that's not realistic. So,
Yeah.
budget wise, there's a lot of different options out there. Again, I'm a big Carrot fan. And I spend, 100 and I think it's $160 a month. They give you up to 5 websites. So I've got my Carrot, I've got my Ring Central, I've got Podio, and trying to think in terms of fixed costs. So my total monthly fixed costs with my CRM, Carrot, and Ring Central, I think is right around about $400 a month.
Hmm.
So outside of that, uh, I'm not spending a whole lot of money. It's not that I'm not cheap or I don't want to do it. I spend, and I do spend some money on content. So I mean, Carrot gives you content, but I also spend money on content outside of Carrot to be different. So it's my time and also additional content that I put into my websites.
Yeah, and I think that CRM element, I mean, that's where a lot of times you'll see DealMachine be fitted in as well. I mean,
Mhm.
we wouldn't like call ourselves a CRM per se from that perspective, but we do have a lead management, portion of the software where you can go
Mhm.
in, take notes on properties, add follow up tasks, really track your activity for each property. So many times people will think about it that way, where it's saying, hey, let's go out, think about a, short-term strategy of doing, direct outreach using DealMachine, and then combine that with this SEO, with this long-term online strategy. So that way together, you're growing short-term, you're growing long-term, and you'll see them, be very, very powerful, feeding off each other that
Well, and
way.
that's
So,
kind of cool because it's not another added expense that they got to go get.
yeah, exactly.
And a lot of times people spend, newer investors, they'll spend time on the CRMs and all the systems in place rather than just taking action and doing. So, with Deal Machine, if that, the CRM's built into the system, it's just one less thing that you've got to go do. And
Mhm.
it's an expense that you don't have to have.
Yep. Yeah. So, I can keep firing away. I've got plenty of questions on
Okay.
my end. Want to make sure that on everybody else's time, feel free to jump in with specific questions for Tyler too. I think, Tyler's doing a great job of outlining like the overall SEO online strategy here. So if you've done anything there, if you have questions there, feel free to jump in the chat. Really appreciate hitting the like button there as well. But feel free to jump in the chat and ask while we have Tyler's time here as well. But one thing I was curious about, I know building that online presence, obviously like picking a great domain name is an important thing. Like you need to be able to build an online brand and really be, be as visible as possible online. So do you have any advice there on how to go about doing that for your market? And I know you're in a very competitive market, so clearly what you've done has been, a good move. So any
Mhm.
advice you have there, that would be great.
When I get this question, people reach out to me all the time, and I do one-on-one kind of coaching with kind of helping people get their carrot sites up and running, just because they read my book and they want help. But one of the things that I talk about, and again, there's no wrong or right when it comes to a URL. I have my own opinion, and I like to pick URLs that have the name of what they're searching for in the URL. So, we've
Mhm.
got a couple carrot sites, and my best performing ones are um, We Buy Homes in Tucson and Sell Tucson Home Fast. And so I'm happy with my local market.com.
Yeah.
And there's other people that have a different strategy where they want to be outside of their market. So that's a whole different,
Mhm.
URL. But for me, I was very specific in where I want to buy and what I want to do. So my URLs reflect that. So I think it's really important to kind of think through at the beginning what your strategy is going to be and
Yep.
what you want to do before pulling the plug. But again, I'm a big fan of picking a URL that has the search terms of what people are searching for in it, just because I think it right out of the gate for the newest person that wants to get up and running. I think that Google and Bing and all the various search engines have a much better time picking it up and indexing it quicker. And again, it's somewhat subjective, and some people
Mhm.
would debate that, but that's what I've had success with.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a very direct call to action as well. Like, if they're clicking on that, they probably have pretty high intent, you'd think.
Exactly. And they're
So,
great leads. I mean,
yeah,
they're awesome leads. It's a
yeah,
totally different lead
well,
than sending out a postcard and said, "Hey, you mailed me the card. Tell me what you're going to offer me." Whereas, uh, an organic motivated seller lead, they're calling you and they're chasing you. It's totally different.
yeah, and I do think like when we'll really try to talk, and you'll see this on like a variety kind of videos that we have, talking about us and Carrot combined. I
Mhm.
think often we'll talk about Deal Machine being a good call to action, a good outbound
Right.
push to get them to get interested in the online content as well. So, in addition to those organic leads that are finding you just through search, you'll be able to get those leads of, hey, if you did send them a mailer, maybe they then looked up more information about you. They built a little bit of relationship with you, really, because they're learning about you through your website, through your online content, maybe doing a little bit of digging there and then giving you a call. And that's a way better conversation where they're coming in warm, they're coming in a little more educated, because they Googled you and because they found your online content, versus just like, hey, I got your postcard and now I'm reaching out. Like that combination is usually
I agree. I mean, if you're going to be doing direct, DealMachine, direct marketing and all that, if you've got, your website out, if you've got your URL and a good website, they're going to go to your about page and check you out.
Yeah. I love that. That's your second highest traffic. Yeah,
it is. It's my second highest trafficked page on my website. And a lot of times, whether they get a card and they go look at you the internet, because if they get multiple cards and you've got your URL on there, and they're going to check you out versus somebody else, if they're calling you, they've done their homework, and they're saying that they already like and trust you, and they're wanting to talk. So I think it's important.
Love it. I saw Adrian said that you utilize Carrot as well. Here's our link. We actually have a special deal set up with Carrot here. So I'll pin that for you guys as well. But if you go to, it's gocarrot.com/dealmachine or go.carrot.com/dealmachine. I know we have our demo on there talking about, in tandem, how people are leveraging us and them. I know you'll get, special perks by going through that particular link as well. So anybody who's, curious about Carrot, go through there and make sure that they know we sent you. And that way they'll, be able to really, treat you special there too. So awesome. I think you touched on this a little bit, Tyler, around your content strategy, but can you maybe talk a little bit more about, putting in that work, the strategy behind your content, what to talk about, topics, just really kind of your content playbook a little bit there, especially for newbies?
So content playbook for newbies. The first thing you want to do is have a really good homepage, home presence, regardless of the site that you're using. There's a lot of sites, Carrot, and, there's a handful of other that, you can be up and running in seconds. But the one thing that I teach and promote is you want to be congruent with your market. So like we're in Arizona, we've got the desert and saguaro cactus. If I've got a picture of the mountains and snow, people are going to be on there and they're going to bounce. Your bounce rate's going to be really high, because at the end of the day, people are looking to want to use local, in my opinion. So I think, taking the time to go through and change it up to your local market is where I spend a lot of time at the beginning. So when they get there, they know they're at the right place. The second most important thing is have a really, really good about page, rather than just, the cookie cutter page that everybody else has. So you want to spend time on your about page. And then what I would do is I would outline, and every city's different. I would go to Google. And so we're in Tucson and you've got all these suburbs of wherever you live. You want to create location pages based on how people are searching. So I'll use Phoenix, for example. It's an easy one. You got Phoenix, but Phoenix is huge. You've got Scottsdale, Mesa, Chandler, Ahwatukee, Glendale. So what you want to do is create all these various pages based on the locations that people want to search, based on motivated sellers. That way it's going to index out there, because that's how they're searching. And then from there, content is king. You just want to be consistent with creating really, really good content to solve a problem. So people are, motivated sellers are looking to solve a problem. So based on their problem, if you've got that content out there, they will probably find you. And as a result, they're going to read about that. And if they like and trust you, then it could potentially be, whether it's a phone call or an opt-in lead, in order to have a conversation with somebody that's looking to sell their home to a cash home buyer.
Outside of the about page, what other types of content and topics have done best for you? Like what other is there any content that they reference, or is there any themes that you talk about that you see people really enjoy?
So I would go to Google. Like Google, it does a great job. If you type in something and then you go to the very bottom of Google, it tells you all the other things that people are searching for based on that subject matter. So I've always got a mind map of just ideas based on things. So you just want to solve the problem. So whether it's a hoarder house or subject to, or, burnt down mobile or whatever it is. I mean, there's all these problems, foreclosure. So there's
Mhm.
all these problems that, homeowners face that become motivated sellers. So it's just continuing to create a ton of content that basically solves a problem that people are asking. And Carrot does a great job with this. I mean, they've got a ton of content. And my other advice is, if you're using Carrot, you want to take that content and make it your own.
Mhm.
And I spend a lot of time on that content and reverse engineer it and make it my own. But again, it's just, there's no wrong or right. But again, the more content you create and the more you become a student of SEO over time. And again, it goes back to my 261 formula that it's going to take time and you just have to be consistent with it. I mean, consistency is the key.
Yeah, can you break that down for people who didn't hear you earlier, the 261, and then maybe just in terms of building good content habits, like how you build that into your schedule, how much time you spend on that, specifics there.
So my 261, just keeping it, super simple, is, again, I was having a hard time articulating it because people were asking, and I finally said, okay, what did I do? So I spent literally the first 2 months with no expectations of thinking that I was ever going to get a lead, other than I knew I had to go to work.
Mhm.
And I mean, I worked on content 24/7 for the first couple months in terms of my site, becoming a student. And Carrot's got a really good, training program that I just dove into, and I just took everything they said and implemented it. So the first 2 months I worked really hard, just putting together that infrastructure that was going to give me what I thought, success over time. And then the 6 months is, it takes about 6 months for the search engines to do their thing in terms of indexing and really finding your site. And
Mhm.
then, Carrot's got a great piece in their back office where you can see where you rank. And I literally watched a lot of my sites go from nothing to high up in the rankings, and it took about 6 months.
Yeah.
And then the real magic happens between 6 and 12 months. So at 12 months, the 261, 12 months is, 1 year.
Yeah.
So the one is 1 year, is when the magic really started to happen, where I was generating enough leads, organic SEO leads, to be doing 1 to 3 deals a month without spending any money on direct mail, pay-per-click, bandit signs, chasing deals in the MLS. And so that's kind of where my 261 formula came, just because at first people were asking me, like, I'm like, I don't know, just, go to
But
work to start.
yeah.
Like, I didn't have an answer.
Yeah, and I think that 1 year, that's really the gap right there that we really hammer home with Carrot, is saying, like, hey, use DealMachine, especially in that first year where you can spin
Right.
up your outreach that way and build momentum and start to land deals, quickly through that, through your
Right.
first, say 2 months, 90 days, that type of stuff, and have, a quick timeline to wins, and then, reinvest, especially if you can reinvest that into your content and into your real estate business. If you can really do that and then dedicate over time your content strategy to consistently producing great content over that first year, then hey, by the time you hit a year, you've been doing consistent outbound deals. You have mail campaigns, you have a variety of campaigns going out, and then on top of that, you're appearing in local SEO, and you're appearing, they're finding you online when they search for you online because you built your online presence through that
Right.
full year. I mean, that combo is extremely powerful.
Well,
So.
and I agree with you, Matt. So, like, I had a little bit of, I had some money saved up so I could actually take that time. But for the newest person that needs now money,
Mhm.
I would say, yeah. I mean, in conjunction with, and then over time, as you start to work on your SEO based on, you can then start to scale in a different direction. So,
Yeah.
for now deals, you've got to do those types of things that are going to make the phone ring immediately. Work on
Mhm.
your SEO, and you said it. I mean, you nailed it. It's setting realistic expectations when it comes to SEO, where, a lot of the other proven strategies, everything works. I mean, those are strategies that you can do immediately in order to start to get results and then reinvest that money. I mean, that's
Yeah.
exactly kind of what I did.
Love it. Well, this has been fantastic, man. I know if anybody else has specific questions, especially when it comes to online marketing, SEO, building getting organic leads that reach out to you by Googling, in your specific market, please throw that in the chat. I know on my end, I have one last question on my side. I know with my background within the content and agency world, and just kind of knowing a little bit about SEO from that history, I know backlinking is such an important part of your online strategy, and backlinking would be, hey, other sites pointing to your site, linking to your site, which is essentially the way Google is set up. It's telling Google, each link back is a point to from somebody else saying, hey, that guy knows what he's talking about, or that's that is them giving you authority because they're endorsing you essentially with that link. So can you maybe talk about the value of backlinks, why it's important, and how to go about executing on a strategy to build those as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a hard one to do when it comes to real estate, because it's a site that just most people don't want to reciprocate backlink to. So it's the hardest piece in the SEO strategy, in my opinion. But there's two different types of backlinking. There's internal structure linking within your own site that helps. And then I've got multiple carrot sites that I do backlinking that way. Then I've got my retail site that I backlink that way. And then I was pretty frustrated because the backlinking was one of the things that I knew I was weak in and I was having a hard time doing it. So I teamed up with somebody and we created actually what is called Cash Home Buyer Directory. So it's a cash home buyer directory. And initially I just created it with a friend in order to be able to have backlinks. And it started working really, really well in terms of that started to index, and that's where I got quite a few backlinks there. So, I've got some good backlinks, but out of all the things in the SEO strategy for investors, I think it's the hardest piece of that puzzle to get. And again, it's just being consistent with it and trying to creatively figure out. The other thing I do for backlinking is I do press releases. They work really well. And so, I mean, I hire, people to write certain content, and then I'll do a press release based on something, and your URL's in there. And those are really, really good backlinks. So there's some things that you can do that you have control over where you don't have to depend upon somebody else.
Well, what's like an example of press release that you've done that's worked really well? Like, is there a certain angle that you've done before that you recommend?
It's out there. Let me see if I can.
Yeah,
Google
that's
it.
an interesting.
You might hold on.
Yeah.
I know I forget which ones come up.
Yeah, just to get real actionable for people here and give them a little bit of a template, that'd be great.
Let me see if I can find. It's been a while. At the beginning I was struggling.
Which domain did you say is the most successful for you? Like, what's a good domain for people to check out to see an example of a lot of the stuff you're talking about?
Oh, so like Cash Home Buyer Directory, it's coming up. So We Buy Homes in Tucson.
Okay.
And if you Google Tucson, let's see here. I'm just trying to find oh, here it is. Okay. So if you Google Tucson mobile home buyer,
okay,
there's a web wire, which is a press release that comes up. So, and again, every market's going to be a little bit different. If you Google We Buy, and you could probably even share your screen if it works, Tucson mobile home buyer. I think like 4 or 5 down, you're going to see a press release that I did.
Let's see here.
It's a WebWire press release.
All right. Is it WebWire? Oh, here we go. Tucson, Arizona mobile homeowners able to secure a fast. Nice. I'll throw this chat in here. So here's an example. Everybody if you're thinking about being this kind of press release strategy, I love this. And
directly above there, you should see Cash Home Buyer Directory too. That's another backlink. So I got 2 backlinks on the first page, 2 indexed places.
That's huge.
On the first page.
There we go. And contact info right there. And perfect. Yeah. I mean, I think
it worked. I was like, okay, I forgot. I think this is it.
There you go. Yeah. So being able to, and in the end, like, you're giving value to people. Like you're putting out content people are actually, wanting to run with, being interested in. So I think, in the end, any content strategy, I think, revolves around truly giving value, truly educating, truly sharing, something that people are interested in. So I think if any creative angle you can do in your local market to emulate that, is going to give you a higher chance of others pointing to it, backlinking to it, and say, hey, check this out.
Right.
So.
But what we're doing, it's hard to get backlinks. It just really is. So what I did is I said, okay, how can I take control rather than be dependent upon other people? So I kind of just one day I started thinking, how are different ways that I can be proactive to get control of backlinks? And that's when I started doing the things that I could control when it comes to backlinking.
Yeah. Well, I love it. Well, I don't see any other specific questions going off in the chat here. So what's the best way for people to get in touch with you, Tyler, if they want to, network with you and be able to follow up with you there?
Oh, they can go. I mean, I have retail. So, I do a lot on the retail side, lead gen to SEO, where I generate a lot of leads and then I send them over to my team. So my Tucson Homes and Lots is my retail side over there.
Okay.
And then also if they go to Amazon and they go how to buy 1 to 3 properties a month, that book will come up, and it's kind of my story. I was at the end of my rope and talk about my drive to see Trevor and kind of how I turned the ship around. And it talks a little bit about SEO and basically what I did, my 261 formula.
Well, I appreciate you giving that formula here. You talking about your journey is inspiring for others to hear as well. And then you get tactical on, hey, here's how you can do it yourself. So if you're just joining us here, would highly recommend rewatching all of that. Tyler gave a lot of great stuff. But again, really, really appreciate your time and awesome having you on.
I appreciate it, Matt. I really appreciate being on.
Yeah. Is your book on Audible too? We had a question come in there.
It's not on. It's I can't remember. It was, so, when COVID, I'll keep it short and sweet. So COVID hit, we were in that lockdown and I'm like, you know what? I'm not just going to sit here. I got to do something. And so literally I went from 0 to a published book in like 45 days during the first COVID lockdown.
You're productive.
I was just like, I don't know. I was going stir crazy. And I'm like, and people kept asking, what are you doing? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to put it all together. But it's not on, can't remember. Oh, it's not on Audible. It's not. I did an audio version of it that lives, but it's not on Audible.
Okay. Well, hey, if you can find that audio version, people try to connect with you directly, Tyler, and can reach out. I'm sure you can maybe help them out there a little bit. But again, really enjoyed this. Check out his book. Check out, if you go, what website did you say is best for you too?
Probably Tucson Homes and Lots.
Cool. There we go. TucsonHomesandLots.com.
I mean, we buy homes in Tucson. My wife's on there because I'm a licensed agent. So Sell Tucson Home Fast has my EXP, all that stuff. And then my wife and I are a team. And then she's on one website. I'm on the other because those two websites combined, we'll get a lot of leads that are double opt-ins. The goal is to, consume as much real estate on the first page of any search engine. So I wouldn't recommend that strategy right out of the gate. I didn't do that until, after the first year. I mean, if you're trying to do two simultaneously, it's just too much. It's better to focus on one. And this is a whole nother, I get this question all the time, but, stay real focused on one. But once we got one cranking, then we started working on the others.
That's great. Yeah. Well, hey, you appreciate you continuing to throw out knowledge for us. So we'll have to have you back on at some point. But again, appreciate your time today. And, thanks for jumping on.
Cool, man. Have a good day. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And to everybody out there, it's Matt Camp with DealMachine, and happy deal finding.